My name is Walter Franco. I'm one half of the brand Namsayin.
I'm Al Michael Franco. I'm the other half of Namsayin.
Namsayin is a lifestyle brand here in the Northwest that focuses on highlighting small businesses, collaborating with vehicle fabricators, painters in the automotive world. Alongside that, we like to develop merchandise, build cars, and really showcase the people in our community.
It was just pretty much hanging out around a group of friends, and then the term Namsayin was like emphasis of things we like. So at first it was like concerts, food, cars, anything cool, and we thought it was cool. We had the emphasis of Namsayin, like that's dope, or filthy. It was just another vernacular of the slang.
Namsayin.
Namsayin.
We were always around cars since we were, as as little as we remember, like our pops was into, building cars, and we always saw him tinkering around and, being, a Filipino immigrant here in the United States, like, if you didn't have the money for it, you would fix it, and so that was the way of how we were taught is like, we didn't have all the money in the world, and, our dad would just show us little things here and there, how to change our oil, how to, do, tire rotations,
Yeah.
basic maintenance stuff. Yeah. And so from there, we kind of just fell in love with just tinkering around with cars. And then, obviously as we grew older and we had our own cars, my dad was always a gearhead, and, he was always tinkering around with his 77 Dodge Colt. But in the Philippines, it was called the Lancer.
Yeah. Mitsubishi Lancer.
Yeah. And, he put performance parts on it. He put, what is it, downdraft carburetors, side draft Makunis, and then it had headers, ignition kit, and he had the whole nine. Had a high lift cam on it, and so as we started understanding the performance aspect of it, then we got into Hondas, and then next thing you know, my dad is like, I want to explore this with you guys, and so it really became a bonding moment for all of us. Our dad told us is that it was just all about bragging rights, right? And so my dad didn't necessarily have a car of choice for him, but people knew that he was good at, piloting, driving vehicles, right? And so, my dad, along with my uncles and people in the, the town of Batak, they would, drive to Manila and back and see who would do it the fastest. And so there was a part of rally racing that my dad enjoyed, because that's essentially how rally racing is, transpired to be. Is you start at one point and see who can get there to the fastest, and then from there, my dad just slowly learned off of, different vehicles. I mean, I think he had a bug in the Philippines, like a V-dub bug. Working on that, and he always talks about that. Like anybody that we chit chat with, he's like, oh yeah, those motors are good, and oh yeah, I used to do
Big diesel trucks.
yeah, big diesel trucks and things like that. And so I think the love for motorsports in general came from, those times where my dad would, celebrate and just, try to be the it guy in the town, when it came to cars.
And going back also for him, I think it's because that's what they were like enjoying to do, like car stuff, because all our other uncles were into cars as well. So
yeah, heavy in the cars.
yeah, so it was just part of their bloodline, I guess. It's like they're in a small town, so what do? Let's get together and cruise cars, or race cars in this case. Yeah.
When you get your car as a teenager, that's a sense of freedom, right? And I think it's a rite of passage. It's a moment in time where people can just, it's a big leap to drive a vehicle, especially in someone's lifetime is when they first get their license. And so, about a car is their space, It's definitely something next to, their own home or their own apartment or their own house. So having something that they can enjoy personally and along with friends is something that they cherish. And I think the more understanding of the culture is, it becomes personal, and they start to modify it, and they start to, take this blank canvas and, recreate it and make it theirs, And so I think that's the number one thing is a lot of people look at these cars and says, this is my avatar. This is a reflection of who I am. So, taking keys and notes of things that they like within different types of industries like anime or like racing, and video games and things like that, and kind of implementing that onto vehicle now. It's like the technology nowadays is through the roof, and having all these amenities, and or the polar opposite, having something that's super raw and just primitive is something that is a reflection of their character, the person that they are, and maybe the time that they grew up with machinery. So
I think you hit it right on the head, and it's nostalgia too. As for those who are older and they want to look back, they can say, hey, this car was when this era and I was doing this into this time. They didn't necessarily own it, but some of the memories, good memories or even bad, it follows with the cars that they see.
Like
for me, I was just hired on a Boeing, so I was a mechanical engineer for Boeing, 06. So a year in, got some money, and I was like, I could start, doing something. And the whole .com thing was kind of going on at the same time. So I was like, oh, let me buy that name. Let me just start building this Namsayin page, and then I don't know where I was going with that, but that's where it kind of started.
And then after that, it's just like, okay, so what do we want to do with this? And then so, WordPress was very popular, and blogging was, at its kind of peak. And you had a whole bunch of people do it, whether it be like streetwear or musicians or, people that are just documenting their car builds, forum boards and things like that. And so it was like this whole culmination of just culture where people are just, grabbing and learning and, understanding different facets of culture and information. And so we kind of wanted to be a hub with our friends and what our taste was. So, we had, I'm gonna say we had like maybe 10 or so contributors that would like have access to the website to just kind of like, hey, I'm in Korea, I love this new kimchi at this spot,
right.
Know what I'm saying? Like, boom, like, and then just post it and, just have people kind of, time into that. Then this was before Instagram.
Yeah.
And this was like on the cusp of, where social media is at right now. And so, that was our taste making, our trending, our way of just kind of showcasing what was dope and was cool, aside from just car culture. Like we wanted the whole lifestyle. Like what's a Namsayin dude gonna eat, right? And like, where are the places that you could go, to a bar or a club out in LA or maybe New York, or
what are the hip hop groups locally that are
music
are in right now, like what's poppin', like what's cracking.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's essentially what what Namsayin was during that time. And like for me, I was still in school. I was still in college. I was studying at Art Center College of Design in Pasadena, trying to be an automotive designer. Which I graduated, and I worked with Volvo and I worked with Buick. But at that time, I was more focused on that. And my brother wouldn't. Me and him, it was just means of like doing something fun to just kind of connect, and just share these type of moments where either on vacation or you found like this cool, watering hole or, dive bar or spot to like go eat at.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we just kind of kept that going. And then when I finally made the decision to move back after, working as an automotive designer, I was like, let's just kind of see where this takes us, and, we were pouring money into it to build all the merchandise, and, we're going to Never Empty, parties, and, we're doing, island reggae shows and just setting up our booths there. And so, we were just trying to,
just be out there,
and just kind of try to make the brand, our Northwest household name that, we essentially wanted to do just for merchandise. But, as years came by, we started to dial in more and like, well, and then of course everyone went their separate ways. Like people who contributed, didn't necessarily have the time for it anymore. And so it was just left to, me and my brother to just kind of figure out what we wanted to do. And then we were just like, we're into cars, we're into food, we like supporting small businesses. Mm-hmm. Let's just keep it at that. And then we just focused on the core of, the Northwest automotive groups of, that are really, out there and really just trying to be a part of this big community to push our community, car community out there,
Yeah, because our region's overlooked at. Like no one sees us as an automotive trailblazer or like innovator or anything like that. It's like always California or East Coast, or it's like Northwest is always slept on. And we were hoping to shine a light on our area to just be like, hey, we do have dope cars out here, dope fabricators, dope tuners. Just it's like it's here too. You don't have to ship your car to Cali.
Yeah.
You could get it done here.
Yeah.
And we have the resources for that.
And how has been the reception of the overall community as you see Namsayin grow throughout the years? Now, like, what is that, 16 years now, right?
Yeah.
What has been the reception from the community?
I think it shows with our events. Like, see 400 cars show up at one time with a week notice, right? So it's like, that's kind of nice to see that the reception of us is like, hey, we wanna be part of this and give back in a positive light. You're not doing burnouts or, you know, like doing dumb stuff or, you know, being a role model car enthusiasts in a way.
Yeah. I think what we saw, you know, in the space here in the Northwest was that a lot of people were just taking things off of Instagram and social media and letting that be the, you know, the big brother, right? Like be the guide to, you know, this culture. But, you know, when social media wasn't around, we learned from all the OGs. You know, we learned from our parents, you know, right? Like that were into cars, or our uncles. We learned from, you know, cousins, people who were in low riding, people who, you know, built hot rods, you know, muscle cars. And then we took some of that and just implemented on these new platforms, which is sold to import, you know, cars. But over the years, I mean, that's just something that we've learned. And so we wanted to pass that down and continue that, right? And so we're at a place now where, you know, we're working with like the city of Seattle, you know, to help cultivate, you know, car culture, and to have them see that, like I said, is like, it's just not about the burnouts or like, you know, the takeovers that you see, you know, the news media kind of clump us in.
It's
into
not
like,
racing, by the way.
Yeah, and it's not racing. And so the terminology is being skewed and twisted. You know, when we say, you know, our car community it's a real community. You know, we have people who have families and kids, and, you know, people that are trying to learn, you know, and acquire knowledge at the same token, you know. And so it's one of those things that we're seeing more and more people in our space come into our space and really just be receptive to it. And that's the only thing that we've ever wanted, is to create a space and hold space for people in the car culture community to feel like they belong, you know. And we've gotten a lot of, you know, comments and DMs and things like that, you know, resonate. And that's why we continue to pour back into what we do. At the end of the day, like, you know, when we're car guys, but a lot of people don't realize that car guys have a lot of economic power. And so strength in numbers, we can, you know, have 500 people show up to, you know, a pop-up, and the pop-ups are within our events. You know, it's someone like, you know, exotic snacks and food, come, you know, and feed the community. And keep in mind, we don't even charge people to be present in these spaces, right? And so, one, we help them, you know, gain recognition. Number two, of course, their food has to be good. So we always make sure that we taste their food before we invite them, you know? And then number three, like, everyone's happy. Our car community's fed. You know, the people that are present at our events that do the food pop-ups, you know, they're ecstatic. They want to, you know, see what our world's about. And a lot of times the people that we align ourselves with do know about the culture. They've had, you know, admirations and dreams of owning a, you know, Integra Type R, or they've had a Lexus that they, you know, used to VIP out and, like, you know, modify. And so, yeah, it's really a beautiful thing where we, you know, the both of us can create this, you know, world for people to kind of just come in and just win, you know, like everyone wins,
yeah.
You know. And so it's not just like, and it's not even just a money grab, you know, like we see organizers out here in the car community that are supposed to be about community, but at the end of the day, they care about attendance numbers and ticket sales, right?
We don't care about that.
You know, we don't care about that, you know.
5 or a million.
Yeah,
matter.
5 or a million, you know, as long as we can make those connections, as long as we can foster the space and people can come into here and actually learn something. And, you know, we always tell the people that we see that are new to our space, like, hey, if you have any questions, you need resources for something, just DM us. Say, hey, man, we're willing, you know, we've been in this game for 25 years, so why don't we just, you know, break bread and help you guys out so that you guys don't have to, you know, go to another alignment shop or another body shop to fix the damages from a previous one that someone, you know, told you about to go to, you know. And that's, that's the thing that we want to continue is, really rely and lean on the people that do quality work in our Great Northwest community.
First, we like to say it's an event now. We moved from meetups because meets has this connotation of doing burnouts and stuff like that. So we've moved away from saying meets and we're doing events just because it is an event. We hand select some of the attendants of the cars, vendors, food. I mean, it's a well thought out event. It's not like, hey, show up with your car, you're cool. We want good vibes, and cars come secondary. You could come up with no car. There's people that been dropped off with Ubers and they just want to come and vibe with us, and that's all we ask. Good vibes and just have fun, learn something, take something home with you, or tell someone about our movement.
So it's always been an idea of ours for the last 3 years, and then of course, like when you think about starting something that's fresh and brand new that we have no idea in terms of equipment, all these other things, I mean, it just became overwhelming at one point, and so, it's just like, let's shelve that idea. But at the same time, we were doing these events, we had people come into the community in our space, and obviously we had a gentleman by the name of Garrett Nelson come in, and he was like, hey, I have a degree in broadcasting, and have you guys ever thought about doing a podcast? And we're like, ding, there you go, there's our guy. Yeah. And so, we invite Garrett into the space, and then of course let him kind of steer the ship and like let him, do his thing because he's so passionate about it, And at the same time, it's like, well, we have years and years of stories, decades of stories and people in our, car community network that we just want more people to, hear.
Yeah.
And so in the process of that, we just ended up going to Fibonacci Studios out in the UW area. And of course, Robert's an amazing individual, a sound guy, has his own studio and whatnot. And the stories, I mean, we didn't realize how much of an impact and how much we would enjoy it, doing a podcast.
Sure.
We're talking to some OG lowrider guys, in our culture from Beacon Hill, Sonny DeVera, for example. He just
a picture of the 80s of when he was growing up. And
driving through Broadway when he was singing the Sir Mix-a-Lot video, Posse's on Broadway. Like, can you imagine? Like, so those type of stories and those type of things in a new, brand new medium allowed us to just be more in touch verbally and like, attain more emotion, because as you read something and as you see something visually, it's one type of way, right? And so having these audio clips now captured by some legends in our car community is everything.
These more stories, there's, that was like just a fraction of what we documented in every decade, right? So the 80s, 90s, early 2000s to current, right? So you could see more in-depth interviews, more people coming in from out of state interviews. I mean,
sky's the limit.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to Japan next month, so they might have someone there out there that we could invite, or
Right.
So we just, who knows? We don't limit ourselves. We just, hey, let's go for it. Check it out. Learn.
We made it this far, in terms of, doing these yearly events with, the car community. And so now we want to look forward to, 2024 to maybe build more cars with the community. We have our own personal projects. We have 2 projects that we're working on with our dad, and, it's something special to come full circle, right? And take the time and just kind of, and my dad's a lot older. So building something with him, slowing down with him, spending more time with him is something we want to start doing. But more so, developing more merchandise, collaborating with people out of state, doing specialty projects. And, the intention when we do all these collaborations and these projects is always to give back. Mm-hmm. And so there's always a higher intention rather than it's just being, creating a food drive or doing a toy drive, or maybe even just, raising awareness for a certain shop or individual. And we will continue to always do that. But, I think where we want to be next year is really doing more of what we did this year, but,
grander scale,
blowing it out of the water, And so Chinatown, our Chinatown car show, our annual car show now is something that we've, worked for the last 5 years, and now it's here. And we had our second annual, and thank you to Thatch Nguyen for opening that door with the city of Seattle. Now we get to do it on an annual basis, and now we get to, bring in more cars into the community, and we get to, educate people more about what car culture is as a community rather than just an individual car and material thing, So,
like, the first year they only gave us a block. This year they gave us 2 blocks, and then next year I think they're gonna give us 4 blocks.
Yeah.
So it's like it's growing, and we're gonna take over Chinatown. Like, just kind of look back on the previous Filipinos that were kind of doing things in the same light, like Crooks and Castles.
Right. Period.
Correct. They're doing it right now currently, and
Mark Arsenal when he
Illest and
was doing Illest.
Flesh.
There's a lot of brands that are headed by or owned by Filipino Americans, and they grew up in the same type of limelight that we did. Where it was middle income. Sometimes maybe on the lower end spectrum where it's we had to eat cheese sandwiches for lunch, right? And so being a Filipino Americans, first generation, it's
like survival mode.
Yeah, and well, not only survival mode, but we always had this idea of wanting to be better than the next, right, or than the previous. I'm sorry, and so honoring our mother and father by having ownership in the stake of America, right, and everybody wanted that American dream, right, and so having a piece of your own that we can call our own, that we built, this brand is something that we've always wanted to look forward to, right? And at the same time, like, we never knew how to do it, right? And so we always looked to our neighbors to just kind of see who's doing what. And we looked at like those brands, Crooks and Castles, Illist, Mark Arsenal, Dennis Calvaro, and all those guys that did it in Southern California, and see how we can also do it too, right? And so I'd say I'm very proud being Filipino American. I just able to connect with other Filipinos through car culture, right? Like, we have all the kuyas and the manongs still coming out, and some of them are kind of balling, they put in their work and their time, and they and they give us those gems, and they teach us and let us know like how it was growing up during that time of car culture, and we get to share that, right? And so it's we're very fortunate to continue that type of energy in the space of car culture.
Generational, right? Like, dad, myself, and then now him. And it's like, it's a surreal thing having us all in one space, and then even sharing a project and completing it, and for him to be sitting there on it, it's like, wow. Because my brother and I were in that car before, and there's memories now that he can have similar to what my brother and I had.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, that's crazy. It's like, right, it's just very profound.
Kids love it.
Yeah.
And that's the best part, is like when we see our friends and their families come out, and they'll have 1-year-olds and 16-year-olds or 5-year-olds come into our space and our events, and they want to pose next to the cars and all that stuff, but it's like one thing to pose next to the car and take a photo, but like, because we know everyone in our community, right, and everyone's good people, good vibes, opening that door and having that kid sit inside and jaw drops, and it's a memory, and it's if anything, it's a catalyst to them wanting to be something so that they can have something like this, right?
Definite core memory unlocked for them.
Yeah.
With them, all right? It's like, yeah, mom and dad took me to Chinatown Parade, and I went to this car, and it's like, yeah, it's very sweet.
And so, yeah, we love it, man, and it's nothing that's short of amazing.
What car projects are you working on with Pops?
Okay.
We got the 85 Toyota truck.
Yep.
And then the 71 Colt Galant.
And so we want to bring it back to, a nostalgic moment within either my dad's, time as someone who is a gearhead and racer that can enjoy, and then on that's for the Colt, and then for the truck, it being something that both me and my brother can utilize in this space of, you know, either overlanding or camping and things like that, because that's a time when like our parents, my dad and mom, would take us, you know, on trips to, you know, California, and we would sleep in the, you know, back of the bed, and like just
Can't do that anymore.
we can't do that now, but I mean we want to definitely utilize that in a matter very similar, right? So like the camping and, you know, taking it, you know, 4x4ing, like, you know, just go to a remote location, kick back with the family, build camaraderie with our family, you know. And so
I thought you were gonna touch on like that car was bought brand new in '84 on his birthday.
well, yeah, I mean that too. So,
Yeah. So
yeah, it was my birthday truck. And, you know, one thing that my dad always said when we were growing up is like, oh, this is going to be your truck. This is yours. It was born, you know, we bought this on your birthday, you know, on your second birthday. And I was like, okay, whatever, you know. And then now that, you know, we've seen it wither throughout the years, and then, you know, just this past summer to see it fully, you know, fresh paint, you know,
no more
refreshed motor, no rust. Yeah, it's amazing to see, man. Like, just to see that, like, now we can hold on to it for another, you know, 40 to 50 years, you know, if that, right?